we'll start by, I'm Dan, hello, and
I'm Lee. Hello, how are you doing?
Okay, this is our weekly roundup. We're going to try and talk to you every week about the things that we've been doing and things that we found out about and like and don't like, and we hope you enjoy it and come back and watch more.
Yes, please.
So, what have you been up to this week, Lee?
I've actually had quite a relaxed week. Last week was really busy, so this is actually quite a relaxed week. I have stayed in and I've slept.
Slept?
Which is quite nice.
Okay.
Right. I find it quite exciting
that's
because
exciting.
I haven't slept much recently, so that's really good. Catch up with a friend yesterday. I've been watching TV.
What have you been watching?
So the new thing that I like last Sunday was a program I think it's been on for a couple of weeks. Great Canal Journeys.
Oh my god!
This is quite good.
What? Who's hosting that?
It's Timothy West and Prunella Scales travelling.
Who's Timothy West?
He's an actor, quite a famous actor. He's currently in EastEnders.
Right.
Spoiler alert: he's going to die soon.
Okay.
But that's actually not much of a spoiler. But he's been in quite a lot of films. I think he's a stage actor.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
He's quite cool. It looks quite kind of like, and basically what they're doing is, I only saw the one episode, which is the
That's his wife,
Sunday.
Prunella Scales.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Or ex-wife.
No, current wife.
Oh, okay, right.
Current wife.
Yeah, current wife. Yeah.
And she obviously played Mrs. What's her name? Basil Fawlty's wife.
Yeah.
Sybil.
Sybil.
Fawlty. But basically, what they're doing is going. I thought it was just UK, but it's Europe next week, and they just travel up, like in the barge, traveling up canals. And they were going through London at the weekend. The weekend show, and they're just essentially like with a massive glass of wine, stopping off quite often. And
is that not like? Didn't Timothy Spall do something like that as well, where he had like a boat and him and his wife were travelling around? I'm sure they did, because one of the guys that I was working with, he produced that and directed it.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's not a new kind of thing, is it? You know, and it's quite current for celebrity or famous people to be doing this sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's quite funny because they're obviously going through the canals of London and giving their history. But it's largely them kind of just looking at scenery, kind of being a bit cantankerous. Like they went through Camden Lock and it's the disdain on their faces looking at people taking pictures of them.
Yeah.
It was just quite funny to observe. And they stopped off in Limehouse and had a drink with Ian McKellen, like he did.
As in Gandalf?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Because there's a little, I think it's Limehouse, and there's a pub, he must live around there, and there's a little pub where he's got his Gandalf stuff.
Okay.
This old pub that Charles Dickens used to drink in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's little things like, it's quite interesting, but it's quite funny just watching them kind of like largely being just this disdain on their face, giving interesting tidbits on canal journeys. And I mean, that's something I like, because quite a few years ago, I kind of wanted to live on a barge for a while.
Okay.
Like, I spoke to Michelle.
Yeah, I've got a friend who does that.
And I spoke to Michelle, and she didn't want to, so I, tried to kind of say, look, let's give it a go. And then she kind of come up with a pretty strong argument not to.
Which was?
Her work colleague lived on a barge, and a homeless man used to poo in her window box. To be fair, I didn't have much of an argument after that.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
So, kind of stop there.
And so what else have you been doing? So just tell us what it is that you do for a living.
I work for a record label. I do their in-house PR. Record label is Mascot.
Okay.
They have a group, so it's lots of rock, some blues, a bit of metal. So it's lots of being out at gigs. And
so have you done any of that this week? I
went to one gig yesterday. I went to see Aaron Keylock.
Who? Aaron
Keylock, a young 17-year-old blues guy, just signed. Exciting. He's good. He's developing. He's been gigging since he was about 12. He's supported some quite big names.
Where's he from?
He's from Oxford.
Okay.
Really good, but like he people are like he's a young blues kid, but he played Bloodstock last year, which is a heavy like extreme metal festival.
Right. Okay.
And he's playing Download this year, which is obviously a rock metal festival. And it's not something you'd initially expect someone like him to play.
No.
But he played a gig in Camden, a new venue that I wasn't familiar with, called the Foundry, which is in the Stables. It's brand new. I think it may have been open for a matter of weeks.
Oh right. Wasn't that thing in What's that thing on Old Street called the
Old
Foundry?
Street was the
The
Foundry.
one on the corner.
Yeah, that had the dolls' heads.
Yeah,
really
yeah,
insane.
yeah.
That's been reopened. I think it's kind of like because it was quite cool because you'd have like lots of couriers would go like bike.
Yeah, no, I
bike
remember
couriers
that
would be
just
there.
essentially being couriers. Yeah.
And you used to go downstairs, and I remember going downstairs, and you couldn't tell the guys' toilets from the girls' toilets because it was just graffiti, not kind of cool done graffiti.
Yeah,
It's just
like
people have
graffiti.
vandalised it over a period of years. And I remember being down there, and they had a separate room. And I remember once walking down there after a few drinks and being a bit hazy, and there was this kind of strange music art installation going on.
Yeah, no, maybe we were together then, because I went somewhere like that. I went in there once and they were doing, it was like they had an overhead projector.
Something like that, yeah.
With like oil between slides,
Right.
and they were projecting that onto the wall. It was like being in some kind of Jefferson Starship video.
Welcome to East London.
Yeah, no. Okay.
So that it's been good. The last couple of weeks have been really gig heavy, so it was quite nice to kind of have some sleep and to just veg out in front of the telly. Not really watching anything much. I mean, I watched a couple of films, which I think we'll talk about in a while.
Yeah.
And just resting, and because I think it's got a couple more busy weeks ahead, so you need to take those weeks where you indulge in nothing.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
I'm a freelance video editor, so I have not been working much recently, but I've had some work this week, and it's really strange. The thing about being a freelancer when you don't have a lot of work is that you get used to not working, and then when you have to start working again, it's incredibly tiring. So
it's quite tough to kind of get yourself out
to
of
go back to being a worker from not being a worker is quite tough. So I've been working this week. What else have I done? I went to my first pub quiz.
Right, okay.
Never been to a pub quiz before.
Where was that?
That was just at a pub in Clapham.
Right.
My friend's friend was doing it for some mental health charity, I think.
Okay.
And that was quite good. The best answer that I got was curate's egg, which is a thing that can be good or bad.
Right.
Can be described as a what, and it was curate's egg. So. And the guy thought no one would get that, but we still lost. We came second.
Second's not losing.
I think we came second. Yeah,
Second's
and
good.
I think
How many teams?
there were quite a lot of teams.
Okay.
And the rest of my team were convinced that the team that won had cheated, but I don't think they had.
Was it one of those teams? Because I've done a few pub quizzes. Tend to come second from bottom.
Yeah.
Bottom,
Okay. Yeah.
Because I give up halfway through. There are people that do quizzes as a thing, and they go around to pub.
Yeah, no. Well, I think the reason
quizzes.
that my teammates thought the other team had cheated was because in the first round they had like nearly 0 points, and then they just nailed everything in the second half.
Right.
Yeah, so they had either someone turned up that hadn't been there earlier, or that someone was called Google.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. This is the thing with like pub quizzes. Everyone's got a phone now. It's really annoying.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Yeah.
But then sometimes, like, I don't want to use Google because if you are still wrong, you failed.
Yeah.
Already. You failed with the tools to find out the answer.
Yeah, no, it's difficult. And then what else have I done this week? So that was Tuesday. Wednesday, I went to because I'm freelance, I have an agent. My agent, the company was having some drinks at a bar in the West End, so I went to that. After work, and that was really good fun. Chatted to some really nice people, and it's because I'm freelance. I don't often get to sort of moan about work with other people.
It's not
because I'm on my own. I don't work at that company. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, if you talk to the people that I work with, they might tell you a different story about that. But it was nice to be able to talk and moan with people that actually understood what I was moaning about and shared my frustration. So that was really, really good. I'm learning to speak Japanese.
Yep.
And that's really, really difficult. And I really enjoy it, but it's very, very tough. And so the thing about learning a foreign language when you're not in the country of origin of that language is it's really difficult to practice it. And you might learn something and then 7 weeks later you've never used that again.
Right.
So it's really important to find people to practice with. So there was a girl at the bar at this drinks thing, and I thought she might have been Japanese.
Right.
Turns out she isn't Japanese.
Right. How did that go down?
So that didn't go down too well at all. Especially as my opening gambit was, "Where are you from? Are you Japanese?"
Right. So
And she was not Japanese. She was from Hong Kong, and she looked distinctly unimpressed that I thought she was Japanese. And she
Right.
actually said, "Why do you think I look Japanese?"
Right.
And then I had no answer. I was like, "No, I'm not sure. I don't know. I just thought I'd ask."
Can
And
I
then
backtrack?
yeah, it was just terrible. So I've learned a lesson there that I should never do that again.
Did she much have a reaction? Was there? What did she
No,
say
she just
after
looked
that?
kind of pissed off and a little bit disgusted. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, the standard reaction.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
particularly if you ask a question and tell them.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Don't wait for the answer. Yeah. So, and then I
Smooth.
think I've been told by some friends that that's one of the worst things that you can do to girls that are from Southeast Asia. Basically, is assume that they're from one of the countries.
Right.
So yeah, don't do that. I won't be doing that
Very
again.
important lesson, that.
Yeah, exactly. I have not been doing much else. I don't think.
Why are you learning Japanese?
I've always been interested in Japan. I think that started because I grew up loving Nintendo, and I really like tech, which is probably why I've ended up doing quite a techie job. I used to be a computer programmer when I was younger,
Yep.
and Japan when I was growing up, and probably still is the home of tech. That's where a lot of tech comes from. So I was always interested in Japan because of that, and then as I got older, it wasn't just the technology that interested me. I was interested in their culture. I started watching films and reading about Japan. And I've never been, but I went to China. I've got some Chinese family, and I went to China a few years ago. And because it's not like going to anywhere in Europe. If you go to anywhere in Europe, the language we have a shared origin of our language. So, and not only that, the culture is kind of similar. It's more similar. The difference between Holland and England is much closer than the difference between Japan and England.
I guess it's the kind of vast
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so my experience in China was that had I not been with somebody who was Chinese, I'd have been really, really screwed because I couldn't understand even down to things in restaurants. I couldn't understand what the food was that I was not being able to read on the menu.
I guess like with any kind of European language, you kind of take a punt, and I guess the words are kind of so ingrained into like it's Spanish words, Italian words, French words, so ingrained that you can kind of guess.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's not only that. It's even down to things like they eat bread in Holland. Do you know what I mean? Like as part of their normal diet.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas even the way that they eat in China and in Japan is different to the way we eat. So you can't even understand down to basic things like that. So then I sort of realised that I couldn't read anything, I couldn't speak to anybody, and I really couldn't understand what was going on had I not had people with me that spoke Mandarin and Cantonese. And I desperately want to go to Japan, but I don't want to have that same experience, which as much as I enjoyed going to China, it was bewildering because I didn't understand what was going on. I felt lost a lot of the time.
Was you learning Mandarin at one point?
Vaguely, a very small amount, yeah. But so that's why I'm learning Japanese. So that when I go to Japan, I'll at least have some grasp of what's happening and be able to communicate with people. So I've been doing that for about what is it now? About 15 months now.
Oh wow, that long?
Yeah. So it's going well, but it's getting. I thought that I would have reached the point where it started becoming easier, and it just still is on this sort of sharp incline of difficulty.
I guess you're still continually learning, really, aren't you?
Yeah, but it's just getting more complex as I go. The further I go along, I think there's a moment coming soon because I think we're coming. There's a lot of verb forms dependent, and they're context dependent. So I think we're getting to the end of being introduced to those. So now it's just going to be a question of consolidating those once all of them have been introduced to us.
So are you at a stage where you can have mild conversations?
Very basic
or is
conversation.
It more say, can I have this? Or...
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, that's fine. I can say, can I have that? How much is it? Where is this?
Yeah.
And I have a Japanese language exchange partner in Japan, and we talk every week. So she's learning English, I'm learning Japanese, and we help each other like that. But we have next to they're rudimentary conversations in Japanese. Her English is very good. My Japanese is not very good yet, but that's why I'm doing this so that it gets to that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a little bit about us and what we've been doing.
Yes.
So let's talk about. So I'm mad about films, which is why I'm a video editor, and Lee, you're quite fond of films as well. So
Yep.
let's talk about some films. I think I'll lead
Yep.
on this. So this week, keeping in subject with talking about Japanese, one of the ways that I've been told can really help you learn a language is by exposing yourself to that language. And obviously, again, as I said earlier, it's quite difficult to do that in a country that doesn't speak that language.
Yep.
So one of the ways that you can do that is by watching films, TV shows, and listening to music. So I've had a couple of films on my shelf for ages that I've just not got around to watching. So I watched both of those this week. And one of them's called Love Exposure. And I've watched Japanese films. I've watched quite a lot of Japanese films in the past. And as much as I enjoy them, I never really feel like in a lot of those films that I could really engage with the characters on a sort of emotional level, or really feel anything for them. They're enjoyable films and the stories are enjoyable, but I find it difficult to actually care about them to a certain degree, not in the same way as Western films. And that could be just a cultural thing. It could be because I can't actually understand them and I'm reading subtitles. But then, I watch other films with subtitles and I've never consistently had that experience. So Love Exposure, I didn't feel like that. I actually really felt like I engaged with the characters. Now, I don't know whether I should be telling people that because it's a pretty odd film and the characters in it are pretty odd. So for this to be the first real Japanese film that I really engage with is a bit strange.
Dig into your brain and find out what you like.
Well, no, exactly. Yeah, I mean, just as a brief sort of synopsis, it's a very long film.
I'm kind of vaguely familiar. Someone's told me about this film before.
Yeah.
I've not seen it, but I'll be aware. So what's
it's 4 hours long, which is one of the reasons that I haven't got around to watching it before, because it's kind of like, okay, I need to commit 4 hours to this.
Do you watch it with subtitles? Or did you not try?
No, I watched it with subtitles because I wanted to actually understand it.
Right.
Yeah, I will probably go back and watch it again without subtitles just to let the language sort of wash over me. But it's basically about a boy who he lives with his father. His father's a priest, and then some trauma happens to the father, and he becomes incredibly strict with the son.
What happened? Is it
Well,
relevant to the story?
Yeah, it's relevant.
Okay.
But if you watch it, you'll see that. But the way that this manifests is that he demands that his son attends confession every day.
Right. Okay.
And his son is a really model pupil, a really good boy.
Like teenager.
Yeah, teenager. Yeah. So he doesn't have anything to confess because he's a good kid.
Right. Okay.
So he starts lying. And his father punishes him for lying because he knows that he's lying.
Right.
So in order to deal with this, the son decides that he needs to start sinning so that he has something to confess.
Right, okay.
And he becomes involved with like street gangs and stuff like that.
Right.
And he's still, all through this, quite an innocent kid.
Right, okay.
But the pinnacle of his sinning achievement is that he becomes an expert in upskirt photography.
Right, okay.
And he brings a kind of... It's very, it's very obviously Japanese.
Teenage boy.
And he brings a sort of kung fu gymnastic ability to this.
I've heard that his moves are quite.
Exactly.
Camera moves are quite impressive.
And then after that it gets weird.
Okay, that's not the weird part.
That's the normal part. After that it gets really strange. But it's a lot of really interesting, exciting things in it. It's really well made. It's really well acted, and little things that. I suppose with a film of that length, it's an hour before the title card comes up.
Wow.
So normally, the title card comes up either straight away or within the first couple of minutes. I mean, there's a full hour of the film before anything about the title gets mentioned, which is unusual.
Quite hard work.
Yeah. No, but it's really good. Yeah, it was really unexpected when it did come up. And I kind of liked that. Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. I thought, maybe we're just not doing that with this film. But then they did it anyway. And I was like, okay, that's good. Yeah. So that's well worth watching.
Does it feel? Sometimes long films can feel a bit of a slog. Did it feel hard work? As in, like just any film that sometimes over like 3 hours can be quite hard. Did it feel an effort, or was it?
No, not at all. No. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It didn't feel like it dragged at any moment. And it, like you say, a lot of long films, you'll find that there are moments in it where you just think, this is. This I could have done without this bit. I didn't need it. This is just self-indulgent. I didn't. It's there's a lot happening in the narrative.
Right.
So there's never really a moment where you feel like, this is a bit of a lull.
So if
Even when there's like there's a sequence that goes on for about 5 minutes where it's just silence and two people sat in the back of a van. And even that didn't feel like it lagged. It was really necessary. It was really, really good.
So what if the upskirt photography was the normal part of it? What was the
There's lots of strange things. There's cults and kidnappings and murders and terrorist plans and a weird kind of porn festival and
porn.
Just lots of very, very strange things.
All I can think of is Anna Partridge and Lynn.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
Don't want to buy a sex festival.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah. So, but I would, if you are not squeamish about those kind of things and you have an interest in, religion and the way it's discussed,
right.
Yeah, I think you could enjoy that. And obviously, you would need to like Japanese culture. I mean, it's a very Japanese film, but it's pretty cool.
Do you find with all the Japanese and Asian films particularly, it can be a lot more? I mean, maybe this isn't fair because I guess we've sort of pushed so many Hollywood films are pushed onto us, and whenever I've seen like Asian films, they always seem more interesting and take a more of a an interesting slant on things and more creative with ideas. Is that true? Do you think? Or not?
I don't know whether that's necessarily true, but I think straight away the fact that it's from a different culture means that you'll have a different perspective. So straight off the bat, that's going to be more interesting.
Yeah.
You're being presented something by Hollywood, which although that is American and not English, it's still the culture's so similar. It's very familiar to us. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I'd highly recommend that. And then the second film I watched, which was last night. I'll preface this by saying that I can't stand musicals. I don't like musicals really at all. I think I can't really think of any that I'd say, yep, I really, really enjoyed that.
Right.
And what I watched last night was a Japanese musical called For Love's Sake.
Okay.
And that is one of the weirder films that I've ever seen. I
like this path you're going down. It's just going to get stranger and
stranger.
Yeah,
no, I mean, it's directed by the guy that directed Audition and Ichi the Killer.
Right, okay. So I've watched Ichi the Killer fairly recently, a couple of years ago.
Okay, right, yeah. And you've seen Audition?
Audition, I don't.
That's the one with the needles. No?
Maybe.
Oh, you'll love that, yeah.
Maybe. Doesn't sound familiar.
So anyway, Ichi the Killer, I mean...
It's a bit of a gore fest, isn't it?
It's very, very violent and very gory, yeah. And so you wouldn't necessarily put the director of that with directing a musical.
What's the context of musical?
The musical is not quite. It's definitely not The Sound of Music. It's probably closer to Ichi the Killer than The Sound of Music. But it felt at moments like a little bit like the same setting kind of thing. It's in high schools. It's kids, high school kids. Yeah, it's cool though. It's a cool film. The music I could have probably done without.
What's it about? What's the
so there's it starts off with a young girl in a cartoon form, being told by her parents, "Be careful," because she's on skis, and then she skis off, and then there's a big hill which she doesn't realise, and she's going way too fast, and a young boy sees her and skis into her to stop her.
It's still animated?
Yeah, it's still animated at that point, and then it cuts to the live action.
Okay.
And it's about a young boy who's a problem child and a girl who's from a very wealthy, upper class family, and how she tries to help him because she's in love with him.
Right, okay.
And he is not interested in her at all. And he's a real problem child. I mean, he's been in trouble with the police. Yeah, okay. The first time that you see him, he's having a huge fight with 30 people, and he beats them all up.
Is he kind of an instigator, or is he just
unlucky? No, I don't know if he's unlucky. I don't think he's instigating, but he's certainly not shying away from it.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so, and it follows that story, basically, that dynamic. There's a kind of love triangle in it, although he's not interested in anybody. So it's not really a love triangle, but he's the object of a love triangle.
Right,
so,
okay.
But yeah, and weirdly, there's a girl from Love Exposure in that as well. So that's
okay.
Which I didn't realise, and she's great in both of those films. So again, if you like weird Japanese films, you'll probably really enjoy that. I don't want to give too much of it away because it's a very strange film, and the things that happen can be quite surprising, and I think that's part of the enjoyment of it.
On the kind of subject of Japanese films, I mean, the guy that a friend of mine that told me initially about Love Exposure was like, I've not seen it, but I was kind of familiar with the concept. Told me about 2 other films. Again, I've seen trailers, so I've not watched them. So I just remembered. So that one is Executive Koala.
I don't know about that.
It's essentially like an office building. I don't know the plot line. There's an office building, and there's just a massive koala walking around that works there. Works in it, like is there at meetings.
And do the people know he's a koala?
I just think it's accepted, yeah.
Okay, so they don't comment on the facts, like they don't find it unusual or anything.
No, and so it's. I mean, I'm not sure. I think there's lots of things. It's kind of semi-violent. I think.
Yeah.
I think like a lot of these, films. What you're saying about, and there's that, and I think you'll get like someone that's sort of got a massive rabbit head.
Okay.
But like in a general office with normal people, and he goes home to his wife. That's I think like just a human, and also there's that, and another one is calamari wrestler.
Calamari wrestler, so what, octopus wrestler?
It's an octopus wrestler.
Wow.
Okay. And again, I've only seen trailers of it and clips on YouTube, but it looks bonkers. It is someone dressed as a massive squid.
Yeah, that does look really, really
that
weird.
Fights people.
Yeah.
In like in a wrestling ring.
Okay.
Again, I've not seen. I don't know the what it's about.
Maybe these are things that we should track down, and
I think we should.
We can report back to all of you on what we think of those. I mean,
it looks
that
bonkers.
Looks mental.
I need to dig out. I can't remember what it's called, but I've got a Japanese zombie film at home. Yeah. And I can't remember what it's called, but I will dig that out.
Okay, cool. So, have you watched anything this week or anything of note?
I've been kind of revisiting films I liked when I was younger. I'm quite a big horror film fan.
I'm not. I don't like horror films.
Yeah, I've tried to get you onto it.
Yeah.
Evil Dead. Did you ever watch that?
Yeah, I did watch it. Yeah. I didn't mind it.
It's quite fun.
I watched the second one as well.
Second one is the best.
It's not just comedy. Like the remake of the first one.
What
kind of.
Sam Raimi
Raimi
would have. The second one's kind of what he would have done.
Yeah.
If he had the budget to do the first one.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a remake with budget.
Yeah.
And great Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
But I've kind of revisited some films, and there's one like I like zombie films, and obviously everyone's like zombies at the moment because of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
But I quite went back and revisited a film, and one of them, Zombie Flesh Eaters.
Okay.
It's an Italian.
Yeah, I think I was reading about that the other day.
Oh, really? I mean, it's quite possible because zombies are a thing now. Everyone loves zombies because of The Walking Dead. Is it The Walking Dead? I've not seen it.
Yeah, The Walking Dead. Yeah.
So I mean, it's like lots of zombies. It doesn't really have any explanation. It doesn't do much. It's quite a kind of cult classic, if you like. The guy Lucio Fulci, I think he's something like that, as a director, and he's kind of known for like slasher gore fest films.
Right.
In late 70s, and essentially the premise is, it's unexplained like most zombie films. A boat arrives in New York. It's quite bad acting, and so a boat arrives in New York with a zombie in it, and it ends up the boat's owned by this doctor, I think, and his daughter's like going, "Oh, he's not here. He's meant to be here." So they go to this island. I don't know if it's meant to be. I don't know, Haiti or something like that.
Yeah.
Is it meant to be there? And I mean, it's quite good. It's a good bad film, if you know what I mean. The acting's kind of appalling.
Well, so it's so bad it's good.
Yeah, but it's quite good. The actual makeup is quite good. I mean, it's late 70s. The zombies look like quite scary zombies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's they go to this island, and the cause of the zombieism is not really explained. Locals think it's voodoo.
Right.
I don't think really gets explained past that. It's just what it is. It's just voodoo and they're zombies, and I think you've got to accept that.
I think that's a bit of a trope with Haiti, isn't it, though? That they have voodoo that turns people into zombies. And there is a podcast called Stuff You Should Know, which is great, and they talked about a Haitian zombie, and that was awesome. Yeah, there's like a real case of that.
So the two famous scenes from Zombie Flesh Eaters, so the first one, they're on a boat going to the island. The reporter and the daughter, kind of meet this couple that just so happen to be kind of holidaying in the area. So the couple that they're holidaying, they agreed to get on the boat with. They're just kind of chilling out, and the wife or the girlfriend decides to go for go snorkeling. Scuba diving. She's got the air canisters.
Yeah.
So she's going scuba diving. Of course, this is a horror film in the 70s, so she does it just wearing a little G-string.
Okay, of course.
Because it's that's what horror films
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
And so she'd go down, she's swimming under the water. So pretty, it's fish, coral reefs, and then a shark kind of comes towards her. So you're kind of like, oh my god, there's a shark. She's going to get eaten. It's a bare-chested woman in the sea. This is a horror film. It's only going to end one way. But it doesn't. What happens is that she hurries away from the shark. She's hiding, and all of a sudden she gets touched on the back by a zombie. So the zombie's in the seabed, walking along casually, and it goes to try to kind of like accost her. She freaks naturally, and she hits him in the face with a bit of coral reef, and swims away. And then the zombie and the shark get into a fight. The zombie bites a bit of the shark off.
Okay.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And they kind of wrestling for a while, swimming along, and then the shark then bites the arm off the zombie.
Okay.
And then the zombie's like, oh, and carries on walking,
which
is great. It's hilarious. It's so like B movies. Great. And then probably the more famous one. I say most famous. More famous one is another the wife of one of the doctors on the island. She's just got out the shower again. Horror film. Anyway, she's getting ready. She doesn't really want to be on the island. She wants to kind of get away because it's there's dead people eating people. And so a zombie gets her hair. So a zombie puts his hand, I think, smashes a window, and grabs her head to try and pull her out. But what he does is pulls. There's a bit of wood splintered, and so basically he's pulling her, and it slowly pulls her. Yeah, it's grim. It's gross. And so the splinter kind of goes into her eye.
Oh.
And
right.
so but it's the same. So looking back, it's not. Obviously, great
no.
At the time, it would have been quite horrifying.
Yeah.
And it's part of that whole video nasty, gore fest type thing. And just for those two scenes, I think it makes it kind of a little classic in its own field.
Right.
But what I find interesting about zombie films is as well, like they're dead. Why are they so hungry? Really?
Maybe they just remember that
you
need to eat to live. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But so that zombie fleshy is. So I watched that, and there's and it's actually it's called something different in Italy. It's actually come out as Zombie 2.
Okay.
So it's alluded that it was a sequel to Dawn of the Dead.
Oh right. Okay.
But it's not actually. There's no relation to it. It's just done that. So that's why it got changed its name to Zombie Flesh Eaters.
Okay.
And from that, there are 2 subsequent sequels.
Yeah.
Which I could talk about another time.
Okay.
That. And there's another film, again, another zombie film that I want to revisit, which is Colin.
Yeah.
Which is a zombie film. I think it's about 5 years ago, but it's a zombie film from the zombie's perspective, which is quite nice.
I remember you telling me about that.
Really low budget, really good, quite sad. But other than that, the only other film I watched this week that I really enjoyed was the original Nutty Professor. Joe Lewis.
Okay, yeah. I remember liking that.
Big Joe
a long
Lewis
time
fan.
ago.
Still good, cheesy, but fun.
I watched another Japanese film this week. I watched an anime called Tokyo Godfathers.
Okay.
Which is about 3 homeless people: a young girl, an alcoholic guy, and an aging transsexual.
Okay.
And it's Christmas Eve, I think,
right.
And they find a baby.
Right, okay.
And then they spend the whole film trying to return the baby to its mother.
Right.
First of all, they decide that they're going to adopt it.
Right, okay.
And then they decide that they're going to... But through doing that, through trying to find the parents of the baby, you go across their own life stories and how they've ended up being homeless. It's actually quite
interesting.
It sounds quite weird. Obviously, it's an anime, but it's actually quite sweet. I actually really enjoyed it, and the stories are dealt with
quite heartwarming.
Yeah, quite. They're dealt with quite maturely, actually, for an anime. So that's something that's worth checking out as well. And it does feel really Christmassy for some reason, even though there's some really horrible moments in it. Like at one point, the drunk finds another homeless drunk who dies, and then these kids beat the shit out of him, which is pretty grim. But it's still, because of that, there's some really sweet moments to it after that. Yeah, so no, that's also really, really good. So,
Is that kind of reminds you? I think of that as the baby is all I can think of is bottom.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Holly.
Yeah.
And on a semi-related note, last week I came across the Rick Mail bench.
Yeah, I saw your picture on Facebook. Yeah, that looks...
The myth, the man, the legend.
Yeah, I think
the doctor.
I think we should all do a pilgrimage to that bench. Really.
Everyone should go to the bench.
Okay, so let's talk about... We're big music fans. we used to work together, and we met. I worked at this company already, and Lee came in for an interview.
About 8 years ago.
Yeah, it must be about 8 years ago. Yeah, maybe even longer than that.
I think it's
actually.
longer.
Yeah, it's probably
I think
longer
about 10,
than that.
actually.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's 10
About 10
years.
years, yeah.
And when Lee came in
Right.
for the interview, I wasn't interviewing him. My boss was. And after his interview, he went away, and my boss said to me and my other friends who worked there, "So what do you think? He was telling us about Lee, and I said that under no circumstances should he employ this man, because he honestly looked like he was wearing Eddie Hitler's suit from bottom." And I'm pretty sure in my head, and I don't know if this is true, but in my head, because I think I heard you saying that you really liked metal, and I'm not and have never been a big fan of metal. And in my head, you actually did that as well in your interview. Which, I mean, now it sounds ridiculous, but now that I know you, it doesn't sound that ridiculous.
Maybe I did.
Yeah, no, exactly. So anyway, we used to work together, and then Lee did actually get the job despite our protestations that he shouldn't get it.
I do remember about that. I do remember that. I don't know if you probably don't remember. I remember you. I think it's Stuart singing "Grease Lightning" as I walked out the door.
You probably had, well, like now, big sideburns. Yeah,
I do remember that.
Yeah, that does sound like our former colleague would do that. But we ended up getting on really well, and realising that we both, even though we like different music, we both love music, and we used to do a gig night together, and we've gone and done gig reviews together and stuff like this. So yeah, music's a big thing for us. So what have you been listening to this week?
I've been listening to. I flick, if I'm honest. I flick quite a lot. One album that I have listened to quite a lot this week, was out this week, is by a band called Bad Guys. I think they're London. Mm-hmm. I mean, to back up a little bit, I have previously, we put on gigs together.
Yeah.
One of the nights I put on a few years ago, Bad Guys played for me. So I think they're a London band, very new. This is a second album on a small label called Right Season, who have really good band. They got a band called Hey Colossus and a band called Shit and Shine. Really interesting, heavy music. So Bad Guys, it's the album's called Bad Gynecology.
Oh dear.
Okay. You'd hate it.
Yeah.
You'd hate it. It's just big sweaty balls rock, really.
Okay. Is that a good thing? Because that sounds pretty horrible to me.
It's kind of like that beer swilling. Do you know what the thing is, that rock music is so formulaic. It can be done. And I'm not saying these guys are breaking any boundaries, because they're not. But it's just really dirty, filthy rock. Not that filthy, sexy rock. Yeah. Just dirty, just filthy.
Like
I mean,
a trunk.
A couple of the songs. Yeah,
yeah.
No, a couple of the songs are. So the first two songs are the best two songs on the album. And the first one's Crime, and I don't know how old this person's meant to be, but essentially it's someone that sees an advert for a Tonka truck on TV and goes to his mum and dad, "I want a Tonka truck," and they say no. So he goes into Toys R Us and steals it because he really, really wants it. You know, it doesn't say necessarily that that he's young, because it could be him as a 30-something-year-old.
Okay, right.
So not too sure. But he really wants his truck, and it's just this dirgy, heavy rock, doomy sort of music. And at the end, the dad goes, "Where did you get that from?" And he goes, "I got it from Toys R Us." And he's like, "How'd you pay for it?" He went, "I didn't. I'm a criminal. It's your fault." And it's fun. There's a lot of humour to it. The second song is called Prostitutes, and it's about prostitutes in the garden and having sex. And it's raining, and they're having sex standing up because they don't want to go on the floor because it's dirty.
Okay.
And how much is £20 or £30? And with each transaction, you get. And this is what I quite like about it. With every transaction, you get a free piece of her soul. Which, do you know what I mean? So
do you know what I mean?
So it's just, there is substance there.
Yeah.
But then there's another song about motorhomes where he buys a motorhome for £20,000 and he wants to drive it into your front room while you're watching telly. It's just dirgy rock, you know.
All right.
But the songs can be it's about a 40-minute album, and there's only 8 tracks. So there's like 7-minute songs. It's a lot. It's doomy, hard rocky, kind of like, sometimes vocally. It's quite spoken quite a lot, and gruff shouts.
Do you like it?
I really like it. I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's great. It's exactly. It sounds like it's like big sweaty balls.
Yeah.
But it's good. I
tend not to want big sweaty balls anywhere near my ears. But,
well,
but, you know,
there's times to sweaty balls near your ears.
Yeah.
It's very good. If you like that sort of music, I think, you know, and it's kind of like it's not saying that it's real rock. Do you know what I mean? It's not polished. It's really dirty, and I find it. I mean, you know, I haven't seen them live since they played for me some years ago, but I understand they're even better live band now. Very in your face, just not obnoxious, but that sort of like not just kind of like unrelenting. I don't care what you think, rock band, and I think that's a good thing.
Anything else?
There is a band, another new band. The album's not massively new.
Yeah.
Another new band I really like is they're called Sebastian Melmoth.
Okay. I think I've heard you, seen you mentioning that.
Yeah, they're very good. They're new. They're kind of like they kind of tend towards more the arty stuff. I mean, again, they'll have a 20-minute song and it's like more of a spoken narrative over it.
Okay.
I find it really interesting. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Velvet Underground's "The Gift," which is on White Light, White Heat. Which John Cowell does the vocals on, which is very descriptive, and they're kind of like this kind of poeticism in it. And the album is called Felix Culpa.
Okay.
Bandcamp,
What's Felix? That's dog cats, isn't it?
The cat is Felix. Yeah. The character, the black and white character in the 50s, is it?
Yeah, but I think it comes from the genus, the name, the zoological naming.
Oh, is it?
I think Felix.
Feline,
yeah. I think Felix is.
Must be.
So what's that? What's Culpa? Culpa's like blame, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I think that means cat blame.
Cat blame.
Yeah.
Why
I
not?
might be completely wrong.
I don't like cats, so I'm
yeah.
Get a cat away from them.
What have I been listening to this week? I've been listening to, excuse me, Green Assassin Dollar, which is instrumental hip hop. Lee, I'm a massive hip hop fan, and Lee is not. This is a guy, I don't know anything about him. I've been listening to hip hop for years and years and years, and I have very much grown out of listening to people talk about being gangsters, or talking about being rich or how nice their chains are.
Isn't that kind of like, I mean, I'm not really a big hip hop fan, but like I'm saying from a rock sort of perspective, it's mainstream rubbish nonsense. Not necessarily it's bad mainstream stuff.
Yeah,
it's just the kind of stuff.
And that's what people think of when they think about hip hop. But there's a lot more to it than that anyway. So I listen to a lot of hip hop that I find on Bandcamp. And if you don't know what Bandcamp is, it's like MySpace was many years ago, but it actually works. And you can buy your albums directly from the artist on there. So
it's downloads. Is it just you download it?
Yeah, it's download. Okay. Yeah, but you can also get physical copies from them as well, depending on the artist and whether they decide to do that or not. And so this guy, I think, from what I can work out, and this might be completely wrong because sometimes people set their location for somewhere that they're not. But this guy appears to be in Japan, and he's done quite a lot of these sort of instrumental beat tapes. But there's one in particular that I've been listening to this week. There's one of his called About Love, which is amazing. But the one I've been listening to this week is called MSL, and that's actually his beats with vocal tracks that he's taken from other rappers.
Samples.
So I'm not overly caring about the other rappers, what they're doing, but the music on it is amazing. So it's like $5, I think, and if you're into that kind of thing, it's definitely well worth getting. It's really, really good. I don't think I've been listening to much else. I'm still listening to Run the Jewels, the second Run the Jewels album, which even though, NME nominated that for one of their albums of the year, I'm still listening to it. So
despite
that, yeah. And in a way, it's kind of it's that strange moment. So Run the Jewels is formed of a rapper called Killer Mike and another rapper and producer called LP, who's one of my heroes. I've loved him for years and years and years. And so, in a way, it's that thing about if you are a sort of music snob, which I am, and I love music, and so when you find something, the things I tend to like are not mainstream.
Yeah.
They tend to be things that no one's ever heard of, which means that I have very short conversations with people about music because they say, "What do you like?" and I say this, and they say, "I've never heard of it."
And you're going, "Yes, that's
okay,
a win for me."
Yeah, good. Okay, fine. Let's move on. So. It's kind of strange though because you want people to like this because you think it's really, really good, and then there's that moment where NME are saying this is one of their albums of the year, and you're kind of like, "Oh, stop it!" But at the same time, I feel really good. I'm really happy for them that they're going to get a lot of sales out of it now.
Yeah.
But also a bit like there's going to be a load of knobheads that are saying that they love Run the Jewels now, and that's a little bit like,
it's sort
stop
of,
now.
It's the sort of thing you want. You want people to like it, but you want it to be certain people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I want people to like it, but not everybody. So not everyone can like that. Yeah. Still listening to that a lot, and various other sort of jazzy things this week.
What is your relationship with Deerhoof since you've seen them? Because I was underwhelmed by the gig. I know you're a huge fan. familiar with music and enjoy music that I'm aware of. I don't know it deeply, but I know you're a big fan.
Yeah,
What
I'm
do you
a
think?
big Dear Who fan, and this is the conversation we had when we were walking away from the gig. Is that there were moments of that gig that I thoroughly enjoyed, but it was really, it was not crowd pleasing.
It seemed quite static. A lot of people were standing there
Yeah,
looking quite
but it was intentionally so, and I
unbothered.
think from what I've read since then, that's how it goes. If you go to one
Yeah.
of their gigs, they are very, very accomplished musicians, and they were doing incredible things with timing, but that made it very difficult for me to enjoy. In the sense of when you go to a gig, you want to enjoy. I don't like. We've been to lots of
Mm.
gigs over our lives. I've been to a lot of gigs, and I kind of don't like gigs anymore.
No, they're different beasts. Really,
I'm
aren't
quite short, so firstly, it means that when I go to a gig, I very rarely see anything except people's shoulder blades, and also I'm not overly fond of the sound quality at gigs. It's generally quite awful. Having said that, the sound quality was quite good at this gig.
they? Yeah.
But so now, if I go to a gig, it's mainly because I really, really love that artist, and I'm not going to often get the chance to see them. And it's kind of like a pilgrimage thing.
Yeah.
I'm just paying my respects to that artist by going out to see them.
Yeah.
I don't actually often think I'm going to have a good time, but it feels like some kind of
A need.
yeah, or like I owe it to them
Yeah,
to
yeah,
turn
yeah,
up.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Especially because the things that I like I said, they're not that mainstream. Not many people like them or know about them necessarily.
It's
But
kind of showing support, isn't it? It's like a fan
Yeah.
base saying, "Look,
Yeah,
I am a
exactly, that's it.
fan,
Yeah,
and I'm going to
exactly,
go
that's it,
along
yeah.
and watch you."
so I kind of I think they're kind of self-indulgent. I don't want to be damning of them, but I think the place for that kind of there's so many of their records that would have had songs on those records as well that would have had the crowd going crazy.
Mm. Towards the end, it was lively.
Yeah, exactly. It was towards the end, but that almost rubbed salt in the wounds. The last 10 minutes of that gig were amazing,
Yeah.
but we'd had another 50 minutes of it, which were really experimental.
Indulgent. Kind of
Self-indulgent maybe. Yeah, and that's really difficult for me to watch. I don't mind listening to that on record because I can just sit down and I can listen to that a few times and analyse it. But when I'm watching you at a gig, I want to just enjoy the atmosphere and the vibe. And the vibe that it created was a weird vibe.
I think gigs are interesting. I'm a firm believer that I think a gig should be a different. It should be different to the record. You can sit at home and listen to the record. I think gigs, you want to engage, you want to get involved, you want excitement, And I think with something like that, I think as you said, they're obviously really good. They're very accomplished. They're doing a lot of interesting things.
Yeah.
But I think as a gig, you want something to, you're giving yourself to a band or an artist that you like. They need to give something back.
Yeah, of course.
And you can appreciate that. They are very good musicians, and I think a gig should have like electricity. And I don't think it was. It was very,
No.
At the end, people got involved. They maybe felt they needed to push the end of the set, send people out the high.
Yeah.
But I think there wasn't any real electricity. People were excited, and they came on. Everyone, and the beginning was quite exciting.
Yeah.
And then I said the middle period was
just
a little bit indulgent.
Well, it was just weird though. I mean, if I'd been on acid, I would have had a really bad time. It was some very strange atmospheric things they were doing with music, and I recognise that the things that they were doing are incredibly difficult. Like I found it very difficult to follow the rhythm patterns that they were coming up with, and the timing. Weird. It was almost like the drummer was inserting extra beats into rhythms that didn't belong there necessarily, and I don't know how everybody was managing to follow that. I mean, obviously, I play a few instruments, but I'm not spectacularly good. I've taught myself. I don't know music theory, so I'm guessing that if you do know music theory, you know exactly what they were doing, but I don't, and so it was kind of bewildering to me. But it also meant that it was really, really difficult to follow along. So one of the things that we want to do each week, given that Lee and myself have very, very different tastes in music.
There's quite a lot of crossover.
We have some crossover bits, mainly 90s Britpop and indie.
Maybe,
And outside of that, there's not a great deal else that we like that's the same.
But I think the good thing, what we've done over the years, is because we're, maybe self-confessed music snobs in our respective, not the same
in our fields.
in our fields.
Yeah.
And what we did, we always swapped ideas. We always swapped music. We always kind of we swapped ideas of stuff we think the other person may like.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what we've done. And in the past, we had this thing when we first met. I quite like metal and rock music. Dan likes hip hop.
Yeah.
one of my favourite bands is Metallica, and I remember talking to Dan. Dan's like, "There's no way I'm ever going to listen to Metallica," and Dan's like trying to get me into hip hop. I'm like, "There's no way I'm going to listen to hip hop."
Yeah.
And over a period of years, I once remember getting an email or a text from you saying you just bought Master of Puppets, which is one of my favourite albums by anyone.
And one of my favourite albums.
It's a great
as well.
album.
Yeah,
It's
take away the album. Yeah.
Take away the latter dirge,
Yeah.
and I remember thinking a little victory.
Yeah, of course.
But then I kind of like. I went and listened to my knowledge of hip hop is minimal, so I went the obvious route as a rock fan. I listened to Public Enemy, and must admit I was blown away. Absolutely, it was the best of, and then I went and invested and got it. It Takes a Nation of Millions. That's the studio, and that fantastic
Which is
album.
I think it's a close run thing, but that's probably my favourite Public Enemy album.
A great album, really enjoyed it. And then we went record shopping a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
I said, "Can you recommend something?" It's not, I'm aware of NWA and Ice Cube, but I wouldn't know where to go. And I thought, okay, I like Public Enemy. And they obviously, their big thing they did was Bring the Noise with Anthrax.
Which is incredible.
It is incredible. Fantastic. You should check it out, particularly the live version.
Yeah.
And so I said, Dan, I'm thinking, I know NWA, this kind of aggressive, like pumped up, hip hop. Do you think that's something I should investigate? And you said, no. What you do, try this. And it was Gangsta.
Oh yeah.
Double album.
Yeah,
I can't remember
incredible. That's probably the greatest hits one, isn't it?
No, there's two. No, studio albums is double. It's like a double.
Double pack.
Double pack. Yeah.
Okay, right. So I think one of those was probably Step in the Arena, and the other one was probably Daily Operation.
Daily Operation.
Yeah,
definitely that one.
Yeah,
and I really enjoyed it. Very different to Public Enemy.
Yeah.
A lot more laid back, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And since I've got into a little bit of Doom.
Yeah.
Like not
big MF Doom fan.
Not massive for me, but so we do have this kind of crossover where we sometimes would recommend stuff to each other that. You think maybe you won't like this, but just give it a chance.
Yeah, that it's worth. I think the thing is, it's worth listening to this. These are the things that in every sort of genre you have kind of milestone records, or things that you think, right, okay, this is the kind of pinnacle of the craft in that genre. And so one of the things that we want to do is we're going to play it almost like a game, because it's probably going to get quite mean at certain points. We're going to do a thing where we recommend each week an album to each other that we think the other person should listen to.
Yeah.
And then we're both going to go away, listen to our recommended albums, and then we're going to come back and talk about those. So let's start that. Have you got an album that you want to recommend? I haven't actually thought of one, so I'm thinking of one as you speak.
It's out next week.
Okay.
It's the band that they're relatively new. They've had 2 albums. They're called The Soft Moon. I say band, it's a guy, it's a one person. It's an American. I really like the first album, self-titled. It was out in 2010. Didn't realise there was a second album, which is 2012, so I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay.
New album's called Deeper.
What are they called again?
The Soft Moon.
The Soft Moon.
And it's called Deeper.
Soft Moon. Deeper. Okay.
Do you want to know what genre it could be classed as?
Nope.
It's a
Okay.
multi-instrumentalist guy, Louis.
And that's out next week?
It's out next week.
Okay, so...
so I've not listened to it.
All right, so you don't know either?
No, I've not listened to it.
All right, okay. And you've listened to their other stuff, though?
I've listened to the first album.
Okay, I've just looked it up, so I now can see that is American post-punk. If that sounds... I don't know what is post-punk.
It came off the punk.
Thank you for that.
Do you know what? It's fair.
Who's post-punk?
Post-punk could be classed as Public Image Limited,
oh, okay, that's
Gang
all right,
4, Killing Joke.
I had a horrible feeling that was going to be like Blink-182 then.
Oh, no.
That wouldn't surprise me.
No, what? Come on. That's pop punk.
Okay.
I've never liked pop punk. Post punk, it's stuff that there are great post punk bands such as Bauhaus. It can be the darker stuff like Bauhaus,
all right.
Killing Joke. This isn't like that. I wouldn't describe it as that.
Okay.
There was a made up genre called chill wave and dark wave a few years ago.
Right.
And they would be the chill wave, dark wave. Dark wave would be their thing.
Dark wave.
It's rubbish.
Oh, okay. Dish out dark wave.
Yeah. Dark wave.
All right. Okay. So, and are we gonna be able to get that on Spotify?
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
I imagine it's out Monday, so I would guess that it's Monday the 30th of March.
All right. Cool.
I guess that it will be. I'd imagine so. The other 2 albums are.
All right. Brilliant. I am not going to recommend a new album for you.
Okay.
And next week I will actually spend this week thinking about the album to recommend to you, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I will go with one of my favourites. So let's do LP's Fantastic Damage.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I'm vaguely familiar with LP. I don't. I may have listened years ago when you told me.
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic Damage.
So what I think we should do is, how many times do we have to listen to these albums over the week?
I think with any album,
Yeah.
I think you should listen to it over a week. I think 4 times.
4 times. Okay. No, that's fine. I can achieve 4 times.
Because I think once you get an impression whether you like something straight away, but I think it takes
4 times you definitely know.
You definitely know, and you've given it a good chance.
Yeah.
So whether you like it or you don't like it,
but
it could be something you like and then more listen to it, actually not so much, or you listen to something, actually I don't like this, but then after a while, actually I may not like it, but I can see the validity and I enjoy these sections of it.
Yeah.
So I think 4 times is enough.
I think also we should make a rule that they should be on Spotify, so that we don't have to go and buy it necessarily.
Yeah, I agree. But if you like,
because I resent having to buy some of the albums you're going to recommend to me.
Depends how much I like LP. It depends on my next.
Yeah.
And you get some crazy psychobilly cowpunk.
Brilliant. That sounds horrific. Okay, so I think that's everything. Have you got anything exciting coming up next week?
Yes, I'm going to see Dylan Moran or Dylan Moran. As I think an Irish friend told me, I was pronouncing it wrong. Yeah. I'm a big fan. Seen him live once before. Got a couple of his DVDs. Huge fan of Black Books. Love his self-deprecating comedy. And I'm going to see him at the Orchard in Dartford on Tuesday.
Cool.
Really excited. Yeah, I forgot about it actually, and I was reminded about it this morning.
I am going on Monday with one of our mutual friends to go and see Princess Kaguya, which is the latest in the Studio Ghibli series of films.
So is they were closing Studio Ghibli? Were they closing already?
Not close. It's weird. It's a weird situation. It's very complex. It looks like they might not be making any more films, but we don't know yet. So I'm going to go and see them that Monday. I'm doing online dating, so I might have an online date this week. So you can find out about that next week.
Don't ask if she's from a certain country.
I won't be asking. We've done that already online, so I know which country she is from. So I won't be making that mistake again. And I don't think. Oh, and I'm doing I'm a video editor, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm doing a training course this week for a couple of days. I'm taking the course, I'm learning on the course, not running it. And I'm learning about some colour correction software. So
sounds really.
You won't be able to see any evidence of that on these videos, though. So I will be doing that for money.
So quite different.
Yeah. So it should be. I'm actually really looking forward to that because it's becoming a bigger part of my job. To do colour correction these days, so it's going to be nice to have some decent tools to do that. So I think that's everything for this week. Have you got anything more that you want to say?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Just I think no.
No? Sure?
Yeah, my brain wanders around.
All right, okay.
Getting lost.
I'm gonna be. I've started playing Super Metroid this week.
What's that?
Which is a Nintendo game that launched. Well, not launched. It's part of a very big Nintendo franchise series, which I've never played before. So I'm going to be playing a bit of that later today, nice. Which will be quite interesting. But I think that's everything now for this week. So I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back next week with more inane banter. Bye.
Bye. See ya.